Teaching English Radio India,
a radio series for teachers of English.
brought to you by the British Council. Hello, and welcome to another program in our series for teachers. I'm Bibash Dash, and today we'll be discussing correcting students' errors in the classroom. But first, let's meet some of the teachers from all over India who will be talking about this subject.
Hi, I'm Neeta and I'm from Mangalore in Karnataka.
I am Rita from Delhi.
I'm Khalik from Muradabad in UP.
I'm Jomi from Changanasheri in Kerala.
I'm Shobha from Bangalore.
My name is Deena. I'm from Madikeri in Karnataka.
Today, we are looking at ways to correct students' errors. And we are concentrating mainly on speaking activities in the classroom. We will talk about writing and pronunciation in other programs.
Students' errors are very important for me as a teacher because they give me useful information about what should be my next teaching item.
I think it's very important that we as teachers not just constantly pick on what they're doing wrong, but also praise them for what they've done right.
When and how should we correct our students? Let's hear now from Khalik, Deena, and Neeta.
Previously, I was correcting all errors of my students myself, and that was actually very much time consuming. So now I have given this responsibility to some of the students, self-correction. I tell you, they become so happy when they correct, and it is time saving for me also, and they learn from each other because they are having dictionaries also with them.
It depends on what one is correcting for. If you're doing an activity that is very grammar focused for some reason, then you might spend more time correcting your learners. If you're having a debate or you have a role play in the class, in this case, what you could do is while you're monitoring and walking around, listening to them, it's a good idea for teachers to take down sentences that you could discuss with them after the end of the activity.
Correcting the students when they are making that mistake by interrupting them is a bad idea. It just brings down their confidence and they are not able to speak up again in class. And I have seen that happening in classes. Therefore, I let it pass at that time and probably talk to the person later, telling them if there was some problem where the error was.
What these teachers are saying is that how we respond to error depends on the context. We can ask ourselves, what is the point of the activity? Is it accuracy or fluency? When we are presenting and practicing a new bit of language, for example, focusing on grammar, it is very important that all the students hear and use the correct model. So, the teacher needs to correct mistakes during this phase. However, when we are focused on fluency and wish to make students feel confident about expressing themselves, they say that we should not rush to correct. Make a note and raise the problems at a later stage with the individual student or with the whole class. What teachers must avoid is making students feel afraid to speak up. It can be hard to get our students to communicate in English, so we need to encourage them. Errors are a natural part of the learning process.
As teachers, I think it's also very important to remember not to correct your students too much, because it can be very demoralizing to pick up on every mistake that your learners or students make.
Good morning, children. Good morning, miss. Okay, today we are in the English class.
Let's visit a classroom where the teacher is setting up an activity in pairs.
Now, do you all have friends in your school? Yes. Santosh, tell me how many friends you have.
My friends are 3.
Okay. Now, you tell me, Meghana, how many friends you have? 4 friends. That's good. How many friends do you have, Nirmala?
5 friends.
Tell me, I have 5 friends.
I have 5 friends.
The students are going to ask each other, will you be my friend if I give you? And then they choose the thing that they will give.
When your friend is thirsty, what will you give?
Water.
Very good. You give water. Then, very good. Anybody gives fruits? Very good. You share fruits with your friends.
It is really important to the teacher, Shobha, that they get the basic model right.
Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? If I give you. If I give you. An ice cream.
This stage in her lesson means the teacher needs a good model of the question, and so she drills her students, first as a whole class, then, after she puts them into pairs, she asks half of them to repeat, and then the other half.
Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? If I give you. A chocolate.
But they are so enthusiastic that you can hardly tell the difference.
Fine. Now, twos repeat.
As well as modeling and drilling, Shobha encourages students to correct themselves.
Will you be my friend if I give you a rose? I will be your friend.
Very good.
Experienced teachers like Jomi, Kamayani, and colleague all work in different schools. But they know that students tend to make the same mistakes, and they want to stop this from happening.
Children have been told somewhere that am is used in the present tense and was is used in the past tense. So whenever they are referring to anything in the past, they will use was. So if you write it on the board and tell them that everywhere was is not required, you have a proper past tense word for the same. Like go has went. So you need not write I was go. There is a word called went. So just remove this was and put in the went. So these are the common types of errors which we find the students making these mistakes in our classrooms.
Instead of saying, where are you going, they might say, where you are going. So I just gesticulate to make them understand that I want them to exchange those two words. Instead of saying, where you are going, I want them to say, where are you going. What I've noticed is many a time the errors are because of overgeneralization. You tell them something and then they apply the same rule to everything. So this type of activity where the teacher listens to the common errors and writes them down on the board helps a lot, because most of them make similar mistakes. The children are sort of inspired to try and find the mistakes and rectify them.
When I hear such type of mistakes, I go back to the blackboard and write down all the incorrect sentences. And then I find that most of their errors are actually slips. They can self-correct. So that way they correct themselves, and it gives a lot of confidence to them when they correct themselves. I don't mention any names, just the mistakes.
With tone of voice or gestures or writing up the common mistakes on the board for the students to correct, Jomi, Kamayani, and colleague find ways to encourage their students to recognize their mistakes and use the right form.
You are listening to Teaching English Radio India, a radio series for teachers of English, brought to you by the British Council.
Today our subject is correcting students' errors in the classroom.
So students, today we will come to know about a story, Razia and her pink elephant.
And now it's time to visit Rita and her students.
Ending up, so can any group stand up and tell how the story ends up? Ganesh, what happened at the end of the story?
The class have been working in groups, and each group is now telling the class their version of a story. This student is in full flow. She is using the word find, when really she means look for or search. But this is a fluency activity, and the important thing is the communication that is going on. How do you think a teacher should deal with this?
Ma'am, there was a girl, her name is Razia. her elephant is still in the forest. She was very sad. She found her elephant everywhere, but she can't successful. In last time she see the elephant near the river, that she was very happy and goes her house with her elephant, very happy.
Well, what the teacher decides to do is to make a note to herself and deal with important points later. So after all the group activity, she has a whole class review of some of the language that came up earlier. Let's listen in.
Students, just now we read the story of Razia and her pink elephant. Some of you have made some mistakes in the sentences. I would like to correct the sentences. In fact, I would like you to tell me what the correct sentence could be. Okay, so the sentence, one of you have told that Razia was found for her pink elephant. Let me tell you in this way that Razia has lost her elephant, so what will she do now? Any other word?
Search. Razia was trying to search for her pink elephant.
Very good, fine, absolutely. So, any other sentences, more sentences related to searching for, search for, to locate, to search.
Rahul was looking for his pencil.
Yes, very good, very good.
She doesn't say who made the different mistakes. She gets all the students involved in finding the correct forms and then practices them with new sentences.
I lost my history book. I tried to find it in my class.
Very good, you have done really very well, and please keep on practicing so that you should help each other, in fact, to do better.
When their classmates check them and tell them about the something which is not correct, then it works much better for them. And with due time, what I have seen is that they start self-correcting themselves, which is probably the best way of correction happening.
As Neeta says, peer correction is another method to make students more responsible for their learning. Other students are encouraged to help out when something is wrong, or if someone can't find the right expression. Getting students to work together in groups allows this to happen naturally. We've been talking about error correction in the classroom, and we've heard the views and ideas of many different teachers. It's time now to review the main points that we have heard today. Teachers say that errors are a natural part of the learning process. How we deal with them depends on whether we are focused on accuracy or fluency. When we are presenting and practicing new language, it's important that all the students are using the correct model, so the teacher will need to correct any mistakes during this phase. When we are focused on fluency and wish to make students feel more confident about expressing themselves, we don't rush in to correct. We usually make a note and raise the problems later. Making students aware of their mistakes so they can correct themselves is a good technique. For example, there are lots of ways to correct spoken errors with a questioning tone, with gestures, or the board. Encouraging peer correction, which happens naturally during group work, is a good way to get all the students more responsible for their learning. They help each other to get it right. And that's all from us today. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Teaching English Radio India. In another program, we'll focus on correcting our students' written work. So join us again. This is Bibash Dash saying goodbye and enjoy your teaching.